Madam President, also I have a speaker card for Danny Stevens. They did not indicate the agenda item, so I'm just holding it until the individual needs to speak. Okay.
Item. That would be great. So good morning, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of Board of Fire Commissioners. Date is February 18th, and it's about 9:05 in the morning. Roll call.
Let the reflect that Commissioners Ibarra, Glazer, Hara, Ninberg, Woods, Gray are present. You have a quorum. Also present are Fire Chief and City Attorney.
Thank you. Flag salute, moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of past and present members of the Los Angeles Fire Department who devoted their lives to the protection of our community. Thank you.
So let's start with Commissioner comments.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Assistant Chief Roy Harvey on his retirement. I was unable to make his retirement, but I sent him a lot of little notes. But I'm happy that he's able to go there. I know we will miss him tremendously because of all that experience that he had in this department. It's irreplaceable. But I heard that I'm really happy with the person who's coming to work in the department. Chief? Is it true?
Who replaces?
Yes, Chief Saunders.
Yes, Chief Saunders.
Oh, I'm so excited to have him back on the Hill. I also attended the African American History Month celebration that the mayor has once every year at the First AME Church. It was really a wonderful program. And if you ever get a chance to go back and listen to the sermon that the minister preached that day, it was not only did he preach, but he was teaching. It was really a very good message that he had. And I was so pleased to be joined by Chief Terrazas and Chief Hogan on that day. And we missed Chief Rideout, but we'll make sure he gets it next year. I think there were some communication problems with some of our people. And then on one day, Thursday, I went to the mayor's house where they had the 2020 annual Young Women's Mentorship Luncheon. And it was really I was happy to see them pushing for women in fire service, which was really good, and that we had a recruitment table there. And lots of young women were coming up there interested in taking things from the table so that they could get involved. And I was excited about that. It was a great group of young women. It seemed like kids today are much more knowledgeable about the world than we were at that age. And they had great questions for the panelists. Really, it was a good group of young ladies. So I did enjoy that. Not having children in your house, it always helps to get in touch with young people because they seem to have a lot more to say about what should be happening in the world than you think should. So those were my activities, and thank you.
This being Black History Month, I'm looking forward to the Stentorian Luncheon, which will be later this month. And then this is the Year of the Rat, and so I participated with the Chief Legal in the Golden Dragon Parade in Chinatown. Actually, we had two of the supervisors, Solis and oh God.
Was it Kathy? Barker?
I always forget. Barter?
Barger. Is it Barger?
Barger. And then Judy Chu, as usual, was also there. And the mayor, of course, likewise participated. And it wasn't as well attended as most of our Golden Dragon parades because it was really hot that day. It was interesting. The crowd was anywhere there was shade, you'd see a lot of people clustered, and anywhere there wasn't any shade, it was totally empty. So, but nevertheless, so it was a great parade.
Excellent. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I, too, want to congratulate Chief Roy Harvey on his retirement and thank him for his 42 years of incredible service to this department. Retiring at the rank of assistant chief, it was nothing short of extraordinary. So that was pretty. I couldn't go to the dinner, but I did make it to the Fire Prevention Bureau's luncheon, which was also very nice. I, too, went to the Women's Young Mentorship Program at the Getty House, and it was pretty fantastic to see so many young women so excited to come over and, go to the LAFD table. There weren't a lot of people tabling, so we got a lot of them. So it was pretty, and they left really excited. I had women coming up to me, young women coming up to me saying, "I want to join. How do I do this?" And and then that leads me to, I went to the expo. I went a little early, and seeing, I think they had 2,400 people signed up, and just seeing the caliber of people who came in was also extraordinary. And I want to commend the recruitment division. It was diverse. Everyone was excited. I want to shout out for having the computer programs there, the computer stations there that people had access. They could apply right then and there. And it's just really great to see so much support and mentorship. So thank you.
Okay, so moving on to announcement, meetings, and events from the fire chief.
Thank you, Madam President. On February 5th and 6th, we had our first ever Everyone Goes Home symposium. And that was an idea that we thought of about a year ago to benefit firefighters from throughout the region. It was free. It was co-hosted by our union, UFLAC, and all the other unions as well, LA County Union, Long Beach, Ventura, LA City Fire, LA County Fire, Ventura County, and Long Beach all joined forces to make a free presentation to all our firefighters, whoever wanted to come. Over 2 days, we had about 350 people. We talked on 3 topics. The first one was the Underwriters Lab firefighting studies using science to inform us how we should be fighting fires today, not based on old science, but new science. The second topic was our cancer prevention efforts. Cancer is a major killer of firefighters, active and retired, and we got to do more in that area. We're doing a lot, and I want to set the path for the fire service as a whole to follow. The third area was firefighter mental health, and we heard presentations from multiple fire departments on what they're doing. That's another area that we need to work harder to take care of our people to ensure that they have sound mental health. On February 11th, we had a fast response vehicle press conference with Mayor Garcetti at Hotchkiss, and we showed off our 4 FRVs that are now fully staffed on a 410 schedule. They're very unique apparatus. I talked to the members assigned to Fast Response Vehicle 64. The day before, they had run 18 calls. They are also our tactical EMS certified members. They can integrate with LAPD SWAT. If they need a SWAT medical component, they are readily available. They're also trained up to transport to alternative destinations, so they can also go to sobriety centers or mental health clinics instead of the emergency room. So now we have 1 FRV in each of our 4 bureaus. So that was a big step for us. That same week, we made a press release announcing the purchase of the first electric fire engine in North America. We'll be 4th in the world behind Berlin, Amsterdam, and Dubai. We expect delivery in December of this year. That'll be an exciting acquisition, and right now we're planning on putting it at Fire Station 82 in Hollywood. We also have had a corporate sponsor donate the charging infrastructure at Fire Station 82. So we're working on that right away so that when we get the engine, the charging structure is in place. And lastly, I did attend the retirement dinner for Chief Harvey. Over 400 people attended. Chief Hogan was the MC. He did an outstanding job. As you can imagine, trying to manage over 400 people who had a lot of good things to say about Chief Harvey. He made a huge impact in our Fire Prevention Bureau. Him and Chief Crowley have really developed a very effective team, and they're doing a lot of great things. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Now, verbal
May
report.
I make us just, since the chief reported on it, it would be nice to hear about the different things that are happening in our department before I see it on TV. So when they send out a press release, could they, I mean, all the work is good, but as a fire commissioner, I would like to know, because people think I know, and I don't.
We can make that happen. We'll make sure whenever we do a press release, we'll send emails.
Maybe just concurrently when you send it
Yep.
to the press, you send it to the commissioner.
Absolutely.
Yes, that would be good.
Verbal report by the department on significant incidents and activities for January 21 to February 17th. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning. Madam President, Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, Julie, and Leticia. I'm Deputy Chief Ronnie Villanueva, Operations South Bureau. On Friday, February 7th at 2020, at 2 o'clock in the morning, LAFD resources were dispatched to a structure fire located at 8686 West Venice Boulevard. That's 58's 1st 10 Battalion 18. Upon arrival, they found a 2-story center hallway residential hotel doing business as the Venice Hotel, which was being used for permanent residents. First arriving resources identified fire showing from one unit with extension into the first floor hallway. The fire quickly extended to the second floor through the interior stairwell closest to the front entrance of the building. There was significant heat damage in the unit of origin and the hallways on both floors. Occupants exited the building from the rear stairwells as well as from the windows on the first and second floor. Throughout the firefight, a total of 6 patients were encountered and treated by LAFD resources. One LAFD member sustained minor breathing complications following the knockdown of the fire. Unfortunately, one civilian occupant of the residential hotel who resided in the unit adjacent to the fire unit was found deceased in a hallway on the first floor. A great alarm assignment extinguished the fire in approximately 39 minutes. Currently, the fire investigation is complete and the cause has been determined accidental. And luckily, the smoke detectors were working. If they were not working, it would have been much, much worse. So, LAFD incident information, it was incident 108 on 7th of 2020. Incident address 8686 West Venice Boulevard. 911 call came in at 2:04 in the morning. First dispatch was at 2:05. Total call processing time was 1 minute and 9 seconds. The first unit on scene arrived at 2:10, so the response time was 4 minutes and 21 seconds. So we got there on time very quickly. LFD resources, 22 companies, 7 rescue ambulances. The specialty companies was arson, heavy rescue, and USAR were used for rapid intervention companies. The PIO, emergency air. There were 7 command teams that were there, EMS 9, 11, and 1. As I had mentioned earlier, there were 6 civilian patients, 5 stable, and 1 critical, 1 firefighter injury, and 1 civilian fatality. The investigation is complete. The cause is accidental. Fire appears to have originated in Unit 11. Most probable cause is ordinary combustion's close proximity to an electric space heater. And then the LA coroner was there. So that ends my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. So now another significant incident from West Bureau.
Yes.
Good morning, Madam
Good
President,
morning.
members of the Fire Commission, Chief Terrazas, Attorney Raffish, and to the management and staff of the LAFD. My name is Armando Hogan, Deputy Chief in charge of Operations West Bureau. My purpose here today is to share with you a significant incident that recently took place in West Bureau. There'll be just a very brief video with some audio, and then I'll continue.
So we got jumpers at the window on the 6th floor. Light Force 95, Roger, come up on channel 9.
Light Force 92 to the incident.
Structure fire, how does that incident? Tread, Rescue 37, get on your PA, tell that person not to jump. He's not in dire straits, tell him not to jump. Reported structure, airborne assignment for air op, Rescue 92, engine 81, Light Force 73, along with Light Force 69, Command 42, engine 26, engine 69, engine 61, engine 109, engine 41, Light Force 88, engine 51, engine 67, engine 68, engine 99, Light Force 27, Light Force 78 and 26. Structure fire assignment high rise, possible jumpers, attack channel is 12 and 16, 1216. Yeah, here's Terrell.
Metro from Command 42.
42, go.
I'm on scene, Barrington IC. I have a well-established, working residential high-rise fire on the 5th floor. I have about 10 units well involved, heavy smoke. I'm going to start placing aircraft on the roof to assist with any evacuations. We have significant resources coming in. I'd like to see if you can activate Area A resources as well. I'll give you a further update here in a bit. Battalion 9 will be operations. Command 42 will be IC.
Roger, Battalion 9 off.
Metro, Fire 4, Helco. Metro, we've got civilians on the roof. Fire 1 is in the process of lowering medics down now. We're going to shuttle the victims or the civilians over to the helipad at the BA. If we can have an engine company there for security. IC from truck 69.
69 and 11, go.
You got engine 37 doing fire attack in stairwell 1, which is the north stairwell, on floor 7. Light Force 69 is going to go on floor 8, which is the floor above. Evacuations happening from 9 above. For right now, I'm sending them up for sheltering in place on the top floor.
Okay, we're going to shelter in place above 2 floors above the fire, and we're going to call the fire floor 7. Copy that. Also, Paul, what I want to do is I want to start thinking about some aggressive fire attack. I want to think about closing all those doors to the fire floor, maybe doing
Hey, no. I want to make a point about the smoke coming. Come here. They're talking to Reed on the phone. I want to look at the smoke. That's why they're so concerned. There's smoke coming out of the top of the 20. Stay on that. No, I want to show you something. This really tells the story. And as we watch another hoist here, a firefighter just came out of that stairwell at the top, and as soon as that firefighter opened up the roof, that's on the top of the 20.
Metro from Barrington IC.
There goes a firefighter.
Barrington IC, go.
I'm just giving you an update here. We're still in the offensive mode. We're going to initiate a transitional attack on the 6th floor. We're continuing to do rooftop evacuations with our aircraft. We still have about a 40-mile-an-hour wind out here. Medical resources are in place. Chief Poyer is on scene. Chief Hogan is the agency administrator. I'll give you a further update here in a bit. Thanks for the support. This is Command 2, Chief Poyer. We have a knockdown here. We'll be transitioning to medical needs and rehab.
As you saw on the morning of Wednesday, January 29th, 2020, at roughly 08:37 a.m., Operations West Bureau Resources responded to 11740 West Wilshire Boulevard. This was Incident 421. The first resources on scene found a large 25-story residential high-rise with heavy fire showing on the 7th floor, with residents on the balcony contemplating jumping to the ground below. The fire was reported by Light Force 95, who was returning from a previous fire just around the corner on San Vicente Boulevard. Of huge concern was a potential life hazard in this building, as it was difficult to determine where the occupants were on that floor. After our resources gathered and gained situational awareness, we were able to address all of the incident concerns and best address the tactical priorities. LAFD crews made an aggressive attack on the fire while simultaneously evacuating the residents on the fire floor while sheltering in place those who were a safe distance from the intense flames. Roughly 300 firefighters battled and suppressed the fire, and a knockdown was declared at 1 hour and 19 minutes later. A shelter was set up at the Westwood Recreational Center for the displaced residents as we partnered with the building's homeowners association to keep the residents updated on our next steps and to ensure their needs were being met. There was one civilian fatality, and the LAFD transported 7 other patients, including the decedent. 2 firefighters were injured and transported to a local hospital to receive care. This was a difficult and challenging incident that our firefighters were able to address through perseverance and a willingness to confine this fire to the floor of origin. This fire remains under investigation. This concludes my report. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Well, first of all, great job by everybody on that incident. It was amazing that you didn't lose, any lives there. So good job. Wasn't this one of the? This was one of the buildings that's in that gap between requirements for sprinklers.
Right. This building was built in 1959. So from 1960 to 74. Because of that, it was built prior to 1960, so there were no sprinklers in that facility. We had what we call wet standpipes and also smoke detectors, but for the most part, there were no sprinklers in that building. We also had a previous fire there in 2013.
Right.
So
I remember after the 2015, we took some action in the board to sort of close the gap. And so maybe we can agendize that again so we can have that discussion again. Because I know that we did pass it, and then it never got enacted. So let's sort of revisit it.
absolutely. Fire prevention is in the process of working on that. There's about 55 of those that are still in Operations West Bureau, so we're partnering with that. There were some other things beyond our control that kind of held that up, but and we won't get into that here. But however, we are still looking at that. That's what we call our lean forward to make sure that we can make this a preventable measure in the future.
So, I mean, my concern is that we did try to take action.
Absolutely.
And, we never closed it for whatever reason beyond our control, but, it's back on us again. So we're going to try to do it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
I had, first I want to commend your department, your team. I was firefighters from everywhere because there were so many. Right. But the operation ran smoothly and you saved so many lives. And we watched it with bated breath on television minute by minute. It was, it was good. I heard some of the I don't know if it was a lady or a couple of people saying that they didn't know the plan for leaving the premises. There was no plan. There was no for them to. And remember we talked about this a bit before about high rises and that there was a team plan. Somebody on the floor is supposed to know how to do something to help to evacuate the people. But they said they had no plan for this particular building. I know that's not your shop, that's fire prevention, but...
You're talking about the floor warden program.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The tenants were saying they were not aware of any plan.
Well, one of the things that we are working with that occupancy now and the surrounding occupancies is to make sure that they're clear. What is that plan? We're going to assist in putting that plan in place. We understand now that we really have to step forward in terms of giving them leadership and direction. So we'll partner with that homeowners association to make sure that those things are on board, and that's taking place as we speak. The beauty of it, Commissioner, and I appreciate your complimenting our department. What really took place was what we call sudden change, meaning our resources just so happened to be making a left turn down Barrington, coming from San Vicente and Wilshire. And just to see our folks with equipment off the apparatus, other folks making transit to go back to their respective quarters, and now have this fire jump out without being in dispatch like we normally would and really having to do this on the fly was simply extraordinary. And it's just a testament to the training and the discipline of our members.
And that's not the only high-rise fire you had in your area. Wasn't there another or two?
Well, there was another one, but it was at the ground level. There was just some wrapping around the building that we addressed. And then we had one the other day. There was a different building. That was on the San Vicente.
Okay.
Yes.
So it looks like we really need to look at those high-rise plans and make sure that the tenants know what they're supposed to do. They were just lucky in this particular instance, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank
Keep
you
up
all.
the good work.
Report by the medical director for the same time period for medical emergencies.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Mark Eckstein, EMS Bureau Commander. Significant EMS incident since our last meeting. I think these underscores the all-hazards approach of our department and the benefit of having dual-function firefighter paramedics after the amazing heroics we just saw, as explained by Chief Hogan. We had a multi-casualty incident on February 6th, which underscores the scourge of homelessness and substance abuse that's pervasive throughout many parts of the city. In Fire Station 64's first in the Watts community, we've responded to 3 patients who were down in respiratory arrest. We sent multiple fire companies and paramedic ambulances, and fortunately, due to extremely well-performed medical intervention, all 3 individuals who were not breathing and unconscious upon arrival of our members were able to regain their vital signs and were delivered to the hospital stable, awake, and alert. But this tragic incident underscored some of the challenges facing us throughout the city right now. 3 other incidents to briefly highlight also underscore, as I've mentioned in previous meetings, the importance of having a very robust chain of survival. As you know, each link of the chain must be strong in order for someone to survive. And these were 3 very young individuals who collapsed with sudden death. And due to the strength of each link in the chain of survival, first and foremost, with bystanders recognizing there's an emergency, contacting MFC, we have a very robust training program and certification program for our dispatchers using the tiered dispatch system, where they rapidly confirm the address. They dispatch resources as quickly as possible. We try to get the call processing times under 60 seconds, and then immediately go towards providing emergency instructions to engage the bystanders to perform chest compression-only CPR. And that was particularly robust in each of these 3 saves. First one was on February 2nd. Truck 11 and Rescue 13 responded to a 29-year-old female who was reportedly unconscious. Again, our call taker provided CPR instructions prior to arrival of Life Force 11, and the combined efforts of basic and advanced life support, they were able to achieve return of spontaneous circulation on this young 29-year-old woman, who was then transported to the nearest STEMI receiving center. On February 7th, in South LA, Engine Rescue 33 responded to a 26-year-old male initially reported to have seizure activity. And one of the tenets of our tiered dispatch system is that when someone is still seizing, it's a cardiac arrest until proven otherwise. Call taker rapidly dispatched this as an immediate dispatch, provided emergency instructions for chest compression-only CPR. And again, due to combined efforts of everybody in the chain of survival, our members were also able to achieve a return of spontaneous circulation of this 26-year-old gentleman, who was then transported to the nearest STEMI receiving center. On February 11th, in the Hollywood area, Engine and Rescue 82 responded to a 40-year-old male found unconscious by his spouse. Again, each link of the chain was strong, and the combined efforts of everybody involved also resulted in achieving return of pulses in the field. And this gentleman was transported to the nearest STEMI receiving center. And finally, last week on February 13th, Engine and Rescue 57, again, some of our busiest resources in the city, responded again on a 29-year-old female who was unconscious after having witnessed seizure activity. And after very intense basic and life support efforts, they were able to not only achieve return of spontaneous circulation on this young woman, but she arrived at the STEMI receiving center awake and alert, and underwent placement of internal defibrillator and was discharged home. So these underscore sudden cardiac arrest could affect people of any age, including very young people. And we're fortunate in the city of LA that we have very robust links in the chain of survival to result in these phenomenal saves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're at presentations now, and I think we have one.
Good morning, Madam President, Fire Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, Attorney Radfish, Ms. Gomez, Eric Scott, Captain 2 Public Information Officer. As Dr. Eckstein just mentioned, there was multiple cardiac arrest survivors over the recent past, and we have another excellent example of this today. And we're going to recognize a team of firefighters that saved a man's life that dropped dead at a car wash in August of 2018. At this point, it'd be nice to have these members to please stand near the podium. Be Captain Kenneth Cordaro, firefighters Garrett Wasserman, Scott Cleland, and Richard Othon. Now, to paint the picture a little bit for this incident, it took place approximately a year and a half ago. It was a time period similar to right now, a typical sunny day in South Los Angeles, when a 43-year-old male decided to drive his car to a local car wash. Now, while he was there and he was standing, he started to tell bystanders he wasn't feeling very well. Then he suddenly collapsed on the ground dead. Fortunately, a nearby civilian who recently learned CPR just 2 weeks prior started chest compressions. He jumped in and played that critical role, giving that link of survival. So then when our firefighter paramedics arrived on scene, they did find the patient pulseless in agonal respirations. They took over CPR. They placed an airway adjunct in that patient's mouth. They began breathing for him with a bag valve mask and oxygen. And then the patient's initial heart rhythm was a lethal ventricular fibrillation, just a quivering of the heart. These members recognized that immediately. They appropriately shocked that patient's heart with 200 joules of electricity. They resumed 2 minutes of CPR, and at that point they continued to breathe for him, and they then were able to check his heart rhythm again, and it was determined that, in fact, he had a return of spontaneous circulation. At that point, then, they began to transport him to a local hospital, and often that's where our stories will end with these patients. But we wanted to take a minute more and not just gloss over the continued critical steps that are really required by this skilled team to successfully keep a patient alive. So just to mention a few, at that point, they have to perform a 12-lead EKG on the heart to get a much closer look. At that point, they determined it was in what we call sinus tach, which is a much better rhythm. So then they adjust their actions appropriately. They look at things like capnography that will monitor the concentration of carbon dioxide in the respiratory system. They look at SpO2, which is the oxygen in the blood. And then they would start an IV like normal, but this individual had poor vascular access. So they actually started an interosseous IV, meaning they took a metal needle, put it into the tibia of the left leg to give the needed drugs in the event he went back into cardiac arrest. And then they transported to the appropriate STEMI center. So actions continued to go on to make sure that this fragile patient was successful. We did get an update on the patient, so we're happy to say that that patient is doing well. We received an email from them. But at this point, we would say, don't take our word for it. We are honored to have Mr. Isaac Diaz to be able to walk in, the cardiac arrest survivor, and he could meet his rescuers here.
Earlier, we saw the dramatic rescue from the high-rise fire at the Barrington Plaza. And this incident that was described as well had equal impact. We saved a life. You can't put a value on a human life. I'm tremendously proud of the men and women of our department. Every day, they handle about 1,350 calls each 24-hour period. And during the course of those calls, we have runs like this where we're successful and runs where we're not. We should celebrate these types of victories. I think it's good for the morale and the mental health of our people. They know that there are times we can be successful. That kind of offsets the times that we can't. And we know now that, that we need to do more to support our mental health of our people. So Mr. Diaz, having you here is outstanding for our people to know that their efforts can be rewarded by survivors like yourself. Dr. Eckstein talked about the chain of survival. In this case, everything worked. And because it did, Mr. Diaz is here with us today. And I can't be more proud of the members of Fire Station 15. And I'm very, very grateful that Mr. Diaz was able to join us here today to join in celebrating the hard work and achievement of our people. And with that, I would like to turn it over to the captain from 15s. He would like to say a few words.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ken Cordero. I actually work at Fire Station 64. That day I was working an overtime day. And it speaks to the professionalism of the crew that's there, that somebody can come from an outside station, and I know and I'm comfortable with the people that I come in and I work with. And they do perform well. They do it every day. They're a very, very busy station. And you, sir, if you couldn't have picked a better street corner to have a cardiac arrest that day. There was you went right instead of left, maybe. I don't know what you did, but the young man that was there that day, when we arrived, he was doing, I remarked to the guy, I said, man, that guy's doing some really good CPR. And it was a young man doing, like I said, doing compressions. And I spoke to him afterwards as we were loading you up. And I said, you did a real good job. I want you to know that what you're, is proper, what you were doing. And he said that's when we found out that it was only 2 weeks prior. He had actually just completed a course in CPR. So as I said, whatever brought you to that street corner that day, the confluence of events came together, and I'm glad to see you standing here. So thank you very much.
How do you thank the people that save your life? I mean, you not only saved my life, but I'm married, so you impacted my wife. I have 2 boys, 16 and 14. You impacted them. This past Friday, my mom passed away, and I got to do something that I wanted to do. I'm her only child, so I got to bury her. She didn't get to bury me. So that's what you guys do. You guys do that on a daily basis, and you guys touch lives on a daily basis, and it trickles. So truly from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate everything.
Take it with you. Cap, take it with you. You gotta show. Oh, take it with you. Yeah. I seriously start. CPR saves lives. Saves lives. That worked. Thank you very much. Good job. Good job. Thank you, sir. Good job.
You're tabling 1.
Yep.
We're tabling 4E.
Oh,
because
4B,
it's not
okay.
ready.
Okay.
So take out 4E.
I'm going to ask for D to get a little.
All right. So. So continue 4E till the next meeting.
4E is continued.
And then for D, you're going to.
Ask her to hold back.
All right.
Good.
All right.
Okay. For the consent agenda, just a couple of quick changes to move. One is move to continue 4E. I'd like to I'm going to hold 4D. I'd like to get a little more information on that. So I'm moving items, moving the recommendations on items
Excuse
4.
me, before you move, I
Oh,
have
sorry.
20 20-011 and 20-013 have questions.
You got it.
11 and 13?
11
So H and
13.
I.
H and I.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and move then items 4A, C, F, and G. Move to adopt the recommendations. And we'll be continuing E and tabling, I guess B is being withdrawn.
No, it's 4E is being,
Oh, it's B. Oh, so B is okay.
B is okay.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. Sorry.
It's just 4E.
4E is being continued. One more time. Moving to adopt the recommendations for items A, B, C, F, and G, and to continue item E.
All in favor?
Oh, we got a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
So we're hearing 4D.
Yes.
Which is the report by the department on the First Amendment agreement with Saman Kashani, MD, for medical oversight regarding the implementation of telemedicine.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Dr.
morning.
Mark Eckstein, EMS Bureau Commander. As you're probably aware, we're embarking on implementing a telemedicine program as a pilot this year in our continuing efforts to decrease unnecessary ambulance transport to emergency departments to free up our resources for life-threatening emergencies. We've gotten funding through the Mayor's Innovation Fund to hire providers to actually handle the calls. And this contract is to hire a part-time physician as an independent contractor to help provide medical oversight for this program. As you might imagine, a program like this is extremely complex and involves a great deal of medical legal risk. So we need someone with a dedicated expertise to spend dedicated efforts to help us build this program, vet and hire qualified telemedicine providers, and build a robust program, training for the field members in the battalion where we conduct the pilot, and have a comprehensive quality improvement and quality review program. Dr. Kashani is board certified in emergency medicine, also completed a emergency medical services fellowship. He's board certified in emergency medicine and emergency medical services. He spent a year with us after his residency, so he's intimately familiar with department operations, and he's working to help me and my team build this telemedicine program, which we're very excited about implementing later this year. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this contract.
Okay, so I understand this is just an extension of a contract. Did we approve this contract earlier? The short one, that was earlier.
I think
we approve all contracts.
Right. I don't know if there was is there a threshold under which contracts can be like a below? It could, no matter how big they are. Okay, great. All right, so just I think we're just a little behind the curve in understanding what's going on with some of the innovations in the department, including the telemedicine. I know you can't give that right now, but since this is the second extension, obviously the program is taking root. So if we could get a more thorough update on what telemedicine programs, because that was a switch, I think, from what we understood was happening before. I don't think we've had really a complete explanation of how the program is going to work. I could be wrong, but do we
You might be figuring that out, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, a couple of things. Just for point of clarification, the reason this contract had to be extended, it was not approved until very recently, and therefore, by the time it was finally executed, it was almost at its expiration date. So it was approved a few months ago for 12 months, and here we are having to extend it. I'm happy to come back and present an overview of our telemedicine program, but as Commission President mentioned, this program is very dynamic, very fluid. We're trying to make this, obviously, it's all framed around patient safety, number one, and operational efficiency, number two. Chief Terrazas and I visited Houston Fire Department last year. They're the first and only department in the country that has a functioning telemedicine program. So we're looking at best practices, and we're working with stakeholders inside and outside the department to make sure the program is safe and effective, and happy to come back and present an overview prior to implementation.
So the program is not running yet?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so yeah, if you could come back with that overview, and then we've been talking about a couple other things. I know the alternative destination. So it would be great if you could wrap all that stuff together, and maybe we could just get a comprehensive update on what some of these new innovations are, so we just have a little more sense of what's going on with that. Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Move to adopt the recommendation for item 4D.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now 4H is report by the department on the acceptance of grant funds for the 2019 Port Security Grant Program in the amount of $299,000 for the Marine firefighter
commend
training.
I'm happy to see that the department's getting grant money. That's really good. But I noticed that there was matching funds. Was that budgeted? Or where does matching funds come from? Was that out of our budget, current budget?
Commissioners, similar to the Port 18 grant, we'll be using vet funds for this. So we'll be getting reimbursement on the 25% cost share.
Using what kind of funds?
Vet funds,
Okay.
vocational education training funds.
So then we only have to provide 25%, is that what you said?
Yes, that's correct. We'll be reimbursed for 75% of the grant.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. So, and how many firefighters 1 and 2s will be trained?
That's going to vary on the contract. Chief Villanueva, do you have any insight on that?
16, 30 total, 15 from our department and 15 from Long Beach.
Correct.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, and these are people who are currently working in the harbor area already?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I see. Okay.
And we're marrying Port 18 and Port 19 together, so the contract is going to start in July of this summer. So they'll be training hand in hand with each other.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Those were questions I had.
Okay. So do you need 4 eyes report by the department on the Oh, yeah, that's right.
Move to
Sorry.
adopt the recommendation for item 4H.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So 4 eyes report by the department on the donation from the Paul George Foundation valued at $4,712 for 200 shadow buddies and 75 child-sized capes and masks to the LAFD. Good
My
morning.
question was just, what are shadow buddies, and what kind of capes and masks are these, and what are they used for, at what time?
So the department was contacted by the Paul George Foundation. Paul George, basketball player for the Clippers, and from personal experiences, as he was growing up, he had an experience where he was given a stuffed animal or something like that by the paramedics when they came out to help him as a child. Now that he has his own foundation, he started this in Oklahoma City, where he played before he came to LA, where he has these Paul George Shadow Buddy dolls that are intended to give to children as we respond to their needs when we go out on ambulance calls. The capes and masks are also there to support the kids that are going through a traumatic experience by calling 911. So the donation process, LA County Fire and LA City Fire accepted donations. We accepted 200 of the dolls to disperse throughout the city from rescue ambulances. Command 22 was there with Rescue 810 after one of the recent games, and we accepted the donation there. And LA County has it along their squads as well.
And will we be doing the Staples giveaway? Will the fire department be doing the Staples giveaway? I noticed that all 200 are coming to the fire department, but the leftovers, he said he wanted them to distribute it at Staples Center.
I believe Staples is handling that on their own. Our only participation is on our emergency calls. When the members find children in need on some of the calls, we go on to use a supportive mechanism to help the kids through the calls that are going on at the time.
I see. That's a cute idea. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, move to adopt the recommendation for item 4I.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So now, the first regular agenda item is a verbal report by the department on Operation South Bureau.
Good morning once again, Commissioners, Madam President, Chief
Good
Terrazas,
morning.
Julie, Leticia. Before we get started on the presentation, I would like to recognize the members of my staff who did the majority of this work, or I should say, all of the work. So if there's anything you don't like about it, then we're gonna point at them. But no, on a serious note, if they would, Chief Mendoza, would you stand up, please? He's Marine Operations. We have our management analyst, Lori Scroce. Secretary, Erica Cabrera.
Hello.
Captain 2, Stephen Marquez,
Hello.
and Captain 1, Sloan Joseph.
Thank you for coming.
And so that right there is Operation South Bureau.
Great.
So, okay, with that, we have a Safer South Bureau. And as we follow along, I'll be mentioning the numbers, number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I'll be reading off my piece of paper here. But the goals of South Bureau are in direct alignment with the goals of the department's Safer City 2.0 strategic plan. Goal number 1, provide exceptional public safety and emergency service. Number 1, the addition of the Fast Response Vehicle 64, FRV 64, expanded the FRV program to provide increased medical coverage to the Watts community, an area high call load and long travel distances. These resources are approved to medically clear select patients with an acute behavioral crisis or public inebriation for transport to an alternate destination rather than to a hospital emergency room. In addition, all FRVs are now certified tactical EMS units and available to support LAPD SWAT team efforts. With the establishment of AD 15, OSB has also increased resource availability by providing transport to alternative patient destinations such as sober centers and mental health clinics. Number 2, due to a SAFER grant and the support of Fire Commission, City Council, UFLAC, Life Force 38 was reestablished in the Wilmington community. With the restoration of Life Force 38, an additional resource will be available to respond to day-to-day emergencies while also having intimate knowledge and working relationships with industrial refineries in this community. Number 3, with the reestablishment of Life Force 38, Rescue 838 was strategically relocated to Fire Station 35, thus ensuring an effective deployment of resources. The relocation of 838 to Fire Station 85 was based on FireStat's predictive deployment analysis. OSB EMS response times. As OSB works on Goal 1, Strategy 1, improving emergency response times, OSB has been able to maintain an average of 52 seconds for EMS turnout time in 2018 and 2019. This is 8 seconds below the NFPA 1710 standard of 60 seconds that the department asked we maintain 90% of the time. OSB average EMS response time increased 2 seconds from 2018 to 2019. Our goal is to reach 5 minutes 90% of the time. OSB fire and other response times. In 2018, OSB's average fire other turnout times was 53 seconds, and in 2019 it was 51 seconds. This is an improvement of 2 seconds. OSB's average fire and other operational response time increased by an average of 1 second in 2018 and 2019. The department strives to maintain an operational response time of 5 minutes for EMS calls and 5 minutes and 30 seconds for fire other calls 90% of the time. OSB accident summary. In 2019, Battalion 6 was the most effective in reducing the number of LAFD involved traffic accidents with a decrease of 2 accidents in OSB. Battalion 13 had an increase of 6 accidents, and Battalion 18 had an increase of 3. In our efforts to address the number of LAFD-involved traffic accidents, OSB has instituted a battalion driving instructor on each shift, as the rest of the bureaus have also done. And the majority of those accidents are side swipes, rear ends, broadside. Those are the things that we're working on. Goal number 2, embrace a healthy, safe, and productive work environment. OSB has provided, number 1, OSB has provided frequent messaging to each battalion regarding the value of human resources, personal management, and a professional workplace environment. Number 2, the reestablishment of EITs in Battalion 6 solidified the battalion command team, ensuring safety and accountability of firefighters on the fire ground. In addition, OSB has held quarterly green cell training for each battalion command team to test their skills managing challenging incidents and their ability to effectively track resources. In 2019, OSB began collecting data to identify workplace injuries due to non-emergency activities. Tracking reported injuries. By categorizing the reported injuries, OSB has been able to isolate specific causes of injuries so we can provide guidelines to ensure greater safety of our members and reduce workers' compensation costs, as the other bureaus are doing also. Goal number 3, implement and capitalize on advanced technology. The Marine Operations Section was created in 2019 at the direction of Fire Chief Chief Terrazas. Battalion Chief Joe Mendoza was detailed to Operation South Bureau January 6, 2019. Many of OSB's successes in 2019 are due to the creation of this position. In 1 year, Chief Mendoza has made great strides in improving the LAFD's marine operations. The Marine Operations Section established fireboat district boundaries with the CAD enhancements in order to improve situational awareness and response times to marine resources in the Port of LA. Working with partners, the Marine Operations Section Commander and Lori Scroce, the OSB Management Analyst, worked with the LAFD Grant Section, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Port of Los Angeles, Police Division to obtain port security grants in a sum of $299,425. These funds will be used by Marine personnel to purchase state-of-the-art scuba dive mask, radar equipment, equipment for fireboats, and to offer Marine training courses. And if I may add also is that Phil Orozco came up and reported on that, and he is the facilitator of all of our grants in the grant unit. But as far as port security grants go, Ms. Lori Scroce is the one that writes them and gets them going. So that's why we've been successful, is because of her. The Marine Operations Section Chief, in collaboration with the Harbor Department and ILWU, improvements have been made to the water side of the berths, which improve LAFD response to terminals within the Port of Los Angeles. And what that is that we have all of our directional signs on land, but we didn't have them in the berths on the water side. And so because of Chief Mendoza working with the Port Department, they were able to put reflective signs on the water side so that when our boats come up, they have an access point and there's someone waiting for them so that we can have a quicker response, because usually the boats are much quicker when we report to the terminals than our land resources. Improving the safety and productivity of our work environment, the LAFD and the Port of LA are in process of repairing or providing a full replacement of all docks and gangways at each of our 4 marine stations. Boat 2 was placed on dry dock on July 8, 2019 after 9 years. The vessel was in much need of service. Many of these needs were critical due to its ability to respond. This service has led to a complete overhaul of the vessel. The Marine Operations Section Chief established a 2-year haul-out cycle of all the boats. The cycle is based on odd and even years. The cycle increases operational efficiency and reduces the overall cost to the Port of LA and to us. Goal number 4, enhance LAFD sustainability and community resiliency. Assistant Chief Jamie Moore recently participated as a keynote speaker at the Falls Injury Prevention Symposia at Olympia Hospital, where he shared data with medical professionals, members of our neighborhood councils, and members of our neighborhood empowerment regarding LAFD responses to fall injuries in our bureau, specifically those 65 years and up. We assess community safety needs and use data collection to prioritize risk and evaluate strategies that we could implement. Number 2, OSB supported the department's recruitment efforts by hosting the first girls' camp to be held at Fire Station 40. It wasn't the first girls' camp. There's been many of those, but it was the first one that was done down at Drill Tower 40. This is in support of LAFD's recruitment efforts and the department's goal of increasing the number of female firefighters in the LAFD. Number 3, a member of OSB command staff supports CERT by attending their new orientation. OSB staff has fostered community partnerships with different neighborhood organizations as focal points to increase CERT membership. CERT receives a dedicated section in OSB's quarterly newsletter, South Point, which you have before you there, which highlights CERT events and increased community awareness of the CERT training opportunities. OSB staff meets regularly with OSB CERT coordinator Chin Tamasangsi. I know that's hard if you read it inside they had to phonetically put that out for me, to identify other mediums to augment community participation in the program. Sustainability and community resiliency. OSB has partnered with MySafeLA in our efforts to improve community resiliency, and I see that Mr. Dave Barrett is in the crowd today, MySafeLA. In addition to the typical functions associated with MySafeLA's partnership with the LAFD, OSB has supported boat canvassing. As we do our normal canvassing when we have structure fires, when there's a fatality, and we go out, we had a fatality in a boat, a couple of them actually recently, and it was MySafeLA's idea, and we collaborated with them, and now we canvass the marinas to enhance the awareness. Goal number 5, increase opportunities for personal growth and professional development. Marine Operations, in concert with UFLAC, has created a letter of agreement clearly describing the scuba diver position, training qualifications, and testing process. The department can anticipate a diver's exam before the end of the year. And that's been a long haul, and so I'd like to also, Freddie Escobar's in here, the president of UFLAC, and worked with us to get that MOU out there to get this process going. Marine Operations and OSB will utilize the marine training courses discussed previously as a platform maritime academy, which will enhance personal growth and professional development while ensuring a qualified marine response force. Partnering with other agencies, Battalion 6 works closely with the LA County Lifeguards and LA County FD Battalion 14, Long Beach Fire Department, Port of Los Angeles Police, the U.S. Coast Guard. In addition, the agencies represented in the Area Maritime Security Advisory Committee, AMSAC, which includes the FBI, Custom Border Protection, and other law enforcement agencies from around our area here. OSB meets regularly with members of SCEMO, that's Southern California Industrial Mutual Aid Organization, comprised of the 13 refineries and industrial agencies in the greater LA area. Battalion 13 has been meeting on a regular basis with LA County FD Battalion 13 and 20 commanders to establish standard operating guidelines for mutual response districts. This has improved communication, operational efficiency, and firefighter safety on scene of emergency incidents. Battalion 18 planned and hosted a brush drill in Baldwin Hills and Kenneton Park with the Area A fire agencies comprised of Beverly Hills, Culver City, and Santa Monica, also LA County, joined us that day. This drill solidified our relationships with each of these agencies. We published a mutual aid newsletter, which is distributed by Battalion 18 on a daily basis. Complaint tracking. OSB meets every 2 weeks with members of the Professional Standards Division to review and address CTS cases in OSB. The number of CTS cases, as you can see there, has gone way down since 2015, and that's when we started the 4 Bureau at that time. And then successes for 2019, they're all up there on your list. It's basically what I have just gone over through this presentation. This slide is a summary of OSB successes for 2019. We are very proud of these accomplishments, which could not have been possible without the relationships within the LAFD, our allied agencies, and community partners. With that also, I can't do it without our team, and the team begins, of course, with Chief Terrazas, Chief Poyer, and all of the deputy chiefs that we meet all the time and discuss to try to have a better department and just to be successful on a daily basis. So that concludes my report. Welcome any questions. You do have your newsletter in front of you, and you have a challenge coin from South Bureau. And if there isn't anything further, thank you very much.
Thank you for the challenge coin.
Yeah,
You good? Question? No?
Good.
Oh, you do?
And good report.
I almost
Yeah.
got away.
And thank you for emailing. I get the newsletter and the email too, so that's good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the report.
Thank you, sir.
I feel like it would be dishonoring tradition if I didn't ask you a couple of questions. So we are all about tradition.
We're all good.
So just a couple quick, really good report. I appreciate it. Looks like you and your team are doing a lot of really good work down there. So generally, couple of highlights, just worth commending. The haul out schedule is a big deal. I know that's been really an issue with the boats for years and years and years, and it ended up being, I think, perhaps penny wise, pound foolish, because the costs of the haul outs, I know, go dramatically up. So great that I know that makes everybody happier, and it's the right thing to do. So good job with getting that figured out. When do we expect Boat 2 back in service?
We're thinking probably about 9 months from now.
Gotcha.
It's needed a lot of work, but Chief Mendoza has been going down there weekly and meeting with the port and all the port partners and everyone regularly. So
Yeah.
we're always on board with what's going on. So we're hoping within a year.
That's great. And is the fast response boat, is that still in operation down there?
Yes, we still have at Fire Station 112. We have boat 17 and our fast response boat that are 2 boats that are now in the spot of boat 2 that are handling those responses.
And how is boat 17? That's a permanent placement, though, yeah?
That one is they're both loaners from the port.
Gotcha. But the 17 was supposed to be, it was a kind of a pilot?
Right.
The idea is something we might want to continue, or
right,
no?
if we could, yes.
And how is, I don't know if can you give some highlights on how that's going with
Well, actually, we're getting another loaner boat. We're going to be turning one of the boats back in and bringing another boat 23, which is actually encapsulated with a pilot house. So we're basically going to still have that boat will be over at 112s for any fast response responses that we have in the future, even if we do give those boats back.
Has that been a useful addition, having that sort of smaller,
It's been very
faster?
good. I think I had reported once before, but the times, it's significant. When that boat gets out there, it'll beat those smaller boats by 15 minutes on some of our times that we, especially if we go around out of the breakwater.
Yeah.
And you go around to the Palos Verdes side.
Got it.
It increases dramatically.
Yeah, I know it was one of the intentions there was for EMS responses to ports of call there. And
ports of call, the Iowa, the terminals that are across the harbor area there, when you have the UTRs have unfortunately fallen into the water. And so that boat can get there much quicker so we can have divers on there.
Okay, great. Just kind of a, a lot of good successes here. Again, congratulations on a lot of that. Can you say any thoughts on some of your operational challenges and what you see as sort of some of the remaining challenges your team is working on?
Well, some of the challenges that we have it's huge, and it's right in front of us is the port. The port is, you have all the refineries that are there, but we do have very good, the SCIMO and then also the Area Maritime, the AMSAC meeting that I attend with all of the port partners. We're always training, but then that's also to congratulate Chief Mendoza is that he's getting a lot of the crane training, refinery training, hazmat training, all within that port complex. And we're teaming up with Long Beach, with the county, with the FBI, with CBP, Coast Guard, all of. So we're constantly. We just had a huge port protector drill, where that's an annual drill that the Coast Guard has to put on, where we have a demonstration or presentation on terrorist acts and anything that can happen within that port complex. So those are the things, the challenges that we have, but we are addressing them all the time. And luckily that we have this Marine Operations section here that has been doing a fantastic job, and that's with the guidance of Chief Terrazas.
So congratulations, Neil. Your turnout time is holding steady. Obviously, we're in a place you want it to be. Any thoughts on just the overall the operational response time on what contributes to that sort of trending in the wrong direction? And I understand there are certain aspects here there are a lot of variables
Well,
there. But
some of them we're trying to help, like response time as far as like accidents go. So we're kind of telling them, hurry, but to slow down a little bit, make sure you put your gear on properly, but get out of there in a reasonable amount of time. And the other thing of our decrease of times is the construction that's going on. You have the blue line, you have a lot of other road diets, you have other things that come into play that may slow it down just a little bit. But our accidents are going down, so with that, that 2 seconds, yes, we want to make that look better. But on the other hand, we're decreasing accidents and being safer out there and keeping our people safer.
Yeah, and without it being a reflection on how it looks, the question is really more about, it's a challenge for the entire department, right? Is the overall changes in operational response time? I don't know if you had any, traffic's one, or if there's specific areas that you see that contribute to that. I imagine there's certain areas where it's fine, but
actually, down in South LA, you have all that areas with the railroad, all the subway that you have there. So that's one area there, and then the other is Battalion 18. It's just congestion, time of day. It depends. Of course, 2:00 in the morning we can get there very quickly, but around the Grove and some of those areas down there where the blue line's coming in, it's very difficult at any time during the day. I mean, you can ask Miss Jenny Park on her trying to get home from work. So it's a tough area.
Yeah. Any thoughts you guys might, initial thoughts on ways to address that?
Well, I think what we're doing is, it's just a natural thing. We're just trying to get out of the station as quickly as possible.
I know it only goes so far. Turnout only goes so far, right?
And being safe as possible. That's really about all that we can do. We don't have
weigh in on that. The call processing time, we're doing very well. We saved 14 seconds right out of the gate when we went to tier dispatching. And then the turnout time, very well. We're faster than the 1 minute NFPA standard. The biggest variable is travel time, without a doubt. And you add a rainy day, and that slows us down. or a major emergency where you tie up a lot of companies on scene, like the Barrington Plaza fire, our response times went down because we had fewer resources in the field. So what are we doing to expedite the telemedicine?
Just
We'll
reminder to
eliminate.
stay on.
We're getting off agenda here.
Okay, we'll eliminate
Let's
some
come
of the
back.
call load.
Sure. So we're coming back to, I'm going to, last comment, and I will move on, Council, I promise, is just, look, I think the department does a great job on the low-hanging stuff, which is the turnout time and the call processing time. I know that's not, I don't mean low-hanging, that
Yeah.
it's easy,
I was gonna
because it's
say,
not.
I don't think it's low-hanging.
But it's what is most immediately in our control. So the stuff that is less in our control, we still have to figure out how to address. I'll leave it there. Interested in coming back to that conversation, though. Can you just talk a little bit more about your CTS chart and what you think? Any thoughts on what do you think has helped with that?
Well, just I think what it is that we constantly are mentioning our expectations to our battalion chiefs. So I meet with them monthly, and so when we meet, I make sure that I always stress the CTS complaints, everything that we have of concern at that time.
Mm-hmm. So that just helps with
give our
the expectations, and people understand what they need to be doing.
Yes, what we do out there, and make sure that message gets out to our battalion chiefs, and our battalion chiefs then disseminate that information down to the troops.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the report. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Bye.
Thank you. So it's just a verbal report. So we can move on to 5B, which is report by the department on the Los Angeles Fire Department computer-aided dispatch status report, the CAD. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, City Attorney, Ms. Gomez, Scott Porter, Chief Information Officer, IT Bureau Commander. Back in December, the Commission asked for a report, or more detailed report, on the status of our computer-aided dispatch system. So I've provided the report. I'll give a couple of highlights and then take any questions. As you know from my report back in December, our CAD system has a 30-plus year history and has evolved quite a bit in those 30 years. It is a custom system that we originally built with contractors and we currently maintain in-house with department staff. The basis of the report is essentially a discussion of 2019, some of the things that we focused on, which were primarily just shoring up the infrastructure, making sure the CAD system was technically sound to continue to meet our needs for the foreseeable future, at least for the next couple of years. We sort of think about things in 3 to 5 year windows. We made a considerable number of enhancements, depending on how you count them, somewhere in 70, 75 minor to moderate to some major enhancements of the CAD software, and we replaced just about all of the infrastructure. That was a project that was started in 2018 and finished up in 2019. We also hired a couple of new staff members, which in the IT world, especially in the city, can be difficult to find good, talented staff. We have a particular, somewhat of a unique challenge in that we want staff that are willing to learn somewhat older technology to do support roles, but also get excited about some of the new things that we're doing and finding that balance. And we were very lucky to hire a couple of really good new staff members in 2019. In 2020, our plan right now is really to focus in 3 major areas. One area that we're focusing on every year is obviously just maintenance and support. We constantly have sort of new, more immediate requirements that we try to address as they come up, but also try to get work done that's on an actual plan. The 3 areas we'll be focusing in on 2020 is the one main area is how we manage locations. We call it address validation or location validation. We're going to be basically doing a wholesale replacement. Think of it as like getting a hip replaced. It's a pretty major surgery, but once it's done, it'll give us a lot of capability that we don't have today. It's essentially putting our CAD system and the way we manage locations on par with how we manage locations throughout all of our other systems in the department. We're also going to be working on continuing work on the fire station alerting system, which we have a contract with a vendor to replace the most of the infrastructure in the fire stations, but it also changes how the CAD system works with the fire station alerting system. So that's a pretty significant major project. And the third is a little bit more bread and butter. It's just upgrading all of the terminals in the in MFC up to Windows 10, which is a citywide endeavor. We have a project going on in the fire department with all our administrative computers. But with the CAD computers, we tend to do things last and very, very cautiously. So that thing will take us all the way through the end of the year. In terms of the future of CAD, we're still very optimistic in terms of sort of, is this the right platform for us? We're constantly looking at the balance of, there are trade-offs when you have the maintenance of this system in-house. Are we really the best, most equipped people to be doing our CAD system? We have to ask ourselves that honestly every couple of years. Right now, I think yes. LAPD just finished their CAD upgrade, so we'll be looking at them, kind of seeing how they're doing. We're constantly looking at the market to see how the market is doing. But we continue to innovate in the area of CAD. Also, sort of the future is really around how we're using the CAD data. We will start a small project to replace what we call the incident archive, which is essentially how people view CAD historical data. And part of that project, a little piece of it, is to start looking at some more predictive analytics. Can we actually move analysis from 24/48 and historical to like real time, looking at things like real time heat maps and other tools that we can give members at MFC and in the administration to look at how things are going in real time. So I think those will be the most innovative areas, that plus our continuation to roll out AVL and how we're doing dispatch with AVL. So that's the end of my report. I'll take any questions.
Just a couple quick questions on the mapping.
Yep.
Sorry, you may have said this. So is that going to push down to the MDCs then?
Yeah, so it's kind of a couple of things. We have maps on the MDCs today.
Right, but we don't love those, right?
We don't love those.
Yeah.
There is a new version of the map that we're testing for the MDCs right now, and that new version is actually the fire department's standard. We call it GIS, Geographic Information System, but the standard map that we use everywhere else. So this will be the first time the MDCs have actually the same map that we use to print the run books, the same map we use on our other applications. That's in test right now, and one of the enhancements of that map is real-time units that are nearby, real-time incidents that are nearby, better driving directions, things that they didn't have available to them before.
Okay.
So that is a project by itself. That's separate from the project that we're doing to enhance CAD and how we manage addresses.
Gotcha. But that map enhancement will be finished. What's the timeline to finish that one?
Probably the summer. We'll start deploying it. We're testing it now, and we'll start deployment of it probably sometime in the summer.
Great.
Yep.
And then fire station alerting. So I've lost track of a little bit where we are with it. So great. You've completed the sort of infrastructure piece, which I know was a big step there. Are we actually funded to get the new off-the-shelf system yet, or that is still pending?
No, we are. So very quickly, a little bit of history. There was an RFP 5-6 years ago. It came back $25-30 million price tag, and everyone said, well, nice, but that's not going to happen. So we did some market research. We sort of thought, hey, 12 million is probably do it for us. We asked for 12. I think that first year was 17, 18, we got $1 million. So we said, okay, well, what can we do with $1 million? So the very first thing we did, and this is almost complete, it's about 90% done, is we replaced all of the telephone network that goes out to each of the fire stations with city fiber. So that was sort of 17, 18, or maybe 18, 19. And then in the next budget, we asked for, I think, $5 million, got $3 million, and that was to replace basically the computer equipment that's in each of the fire stations that actually does the alerting and the computer equipment that does the automated voice. That's sort of the next level of the guts of the system. We have a contract. There is a company under contract, and they're working. And that will replace our next most vulnerable piece, which is all these old boxes that are in the fire stations. and that'll take us through 2020. And we haven't in this year's budget asked for anything, because that's going to take us a year to finish and sort of settle in on. Once that's done, we will then have a completely new platform for fire station alerting, and that's where we can start talking about how can we enhance alerting inside the station for, more configuration of the bells and alarming and
Different rooms getting different
the-
signals and
all of that sort of stuff. We now have a platform we can do all of that. The fire chief and I had talked about things like controlling the doors at the time of an earthquake, turning things on and off. We'll have the capability to do all of that. And I think once we understand sort of what's the next problem we want to solve with fire station alerting, that's when we'll make another budget request. But right now, we're just, one thing at a time.
Got it. But it seems like the path is away from removing fire station alerting out of the CAD entirely and going towards a third party, and instead actually
so
trying
we have
to.
a little bit of a hybrid now. So the original, what we're replacing was, the boxes were literally built and supported by ITA. They have guys on soldering benches fixing them. So that's all going to be replaced with a commercial off-the-shelf vendor that does major fire departments, FDNY, Houston, and Chicago, right? So that part is commercial off-the-shelf. So when we want to add new types of alerting, we want to add stuff, we're buying it from them. Our piece, which is how we integrate and control that, we'll be doing on our end. And we're even doing things with them because it's, a custom CAD they've never really done before, like the way we control their fire station alerting system. So it's a hybrid of a completely remove versus.
Does it better? Should there be a time, and I know this is a very much an open question, but should there be an eventuality where we actually decide to replace the entire CAD system with an off-the-shelf system? Does the work you're doing now, is that going to allow us to make that decision more easily if we need to? Because I think one of the issues before was because fire station alerting was so integrated into the CAD, it actually was a major obstacle to any kind of a third party, like an off-the-shelf system for CAD. I'm not saying we necessarily want to go off the shelf, but I know that was something that actually prevented us from even really going down that path too far.
Yeah, there isn't anything about the fire station alerting system that would have to be replaced other than the CAD integration.
Mm-hmm. So that's you're disentangling things a little bit.
It certainly could live with another CAD because it does everywhere else.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just on AVL, the AVL integration, can you just say a little bit more about where we are with AVL and how that's integrating into dispatching right now?
So AVL is somewhat now in just maintenance mode, just like TDS. We built TDS. It was a project. There was, sort of for a year after it was implemented, constant changes and upgrades and enhancements. And now that is in maintenance mode. AVL is much the same way. Really, right now, it's more operational. What types of calls and which algorithms do we move towards AVL? That's kind of a decision that we deal with all the time. And then the second thing is we're implementing more broadband, which is the network that the AVL runs over. And as we get more experience with that, we'll probably get more into AVL-based dispatch. So the status is it's there. We currently support it now, and it's still on a limited number of call types where we actually use closest unit based on AVL.
Got it. But as far as AVL implementation within the CAD.
Yep.
We're talking about AVL here. The word AVL is in this report.
I'd expect that from someone in public comment. From a commissioner.
Anyways, last question. But we have that as far as you're concerned, the actual guts of AVL are integrated into the CAD.
Yes.
Every unit's got AVL.
Yes.
And so now it's just a question of an operational adaptation of it.
And how do we want to evolve it? What's the next step operationally we want to do with AVL?
Okay.
Yeah.
When might we be able to get a deeper dive into AVL and its projected use? I guess that's both you and the dispatch team. I don't know. Is that?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that sometime? Maybe this early summer.
We can talk about it anytime you want.
Fantastic.
You just have to tell us what you want to talk about, and
I think it would be interesting to see. We've had AVL relive about 5 years now, right?
Yeah.
It's so the question would be for a future report would be, now that it's out there, right? What have we learned, and what is the AVL plan for the the next 1 to 3 years?
Yep.
To live up to the potential of having that capability.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that would be my request for a report at some point in the next 3 months.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks.
Always appreciate your reports. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, move to adopt the recommendation for item 5B.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We have one public comment from Mr. Danny Stevens from the Sprinkler Fitters Local 709.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I only have 3 minutes, or I'd ask what is AVL, but we're not going to talk about that. So I'm here to address the Barrington fire and how we got there and where we're going to go from here. So President Ibarra mentioned there was a a report to the commission. It was dated August 18th, 2017. That commission led to a council motion on September of 2017, and unfortunately it died in committee December of 2018. So now we go back to January 29th, 2020, and we have another fire that kills people, injures a lot of people, costs the city a lot of money. The report is an excellent report. It's comprehensive. It addresses evacuation routes and training of the building staff. I'm going to just read the summary real quick. It states, due to the recent multiple fatality fires which have occurred in several non-sprinklered high-rise buildings throughout the nation and abroad, the Los Angeles Fire Department Fire Prevention Bureau created an aggressive action plan to decrease the community's risk. The FPB took a proactive approach to immediately identify, prioritize, and thoroughly inspect all 55 non-sprinklered residential high-rises in the city of LA. These actions ensure that the current fire life safety systems are in good working order and the fire code is enforced. The action plan includes additional steps to ensure building owners and occupants are well informed of the risks and educated on fire life safety measures, including proposed retrofit from fire sprinkler systems. That would increase overall safety. LAFD historically identifies non-sprinklered high-rise buildings as occupancies that present an increased risk to the public and first responders. Modern fire protection in the form of sprinklers is arguably the best-known fire protection method to assist in saving lives prior to fire department arrival. Now, moving on, there was a motion submitted January 31st. I'm going to read a portion of that. While state regulations require fire suppression systems for all buildings taller than, may I continue for a quick second?
If you can just close it out,
Absolutely.
that'd be great.
Yeah, so the motion is, there's an exemption for these buildings that was put in. We all thought after the first interstate
Where?
fire, we had it covered. Exemption for these 55 high-rise buildings,
Where
and they're
was
still having fires.
Thank you. We're going to revisit the issue, as we mentioned. Thank you so much.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Planning for emergencies is smart, but does the family emergency plan include pets?